So what about teamwork? What associations does the word teamwork bring up in your mind? Because remember, these memories are all connected to each other. These memories are all impact each other, and there are associations in your mind. When you think of a word, when you think of something, then it's not just the core concept that you're thinking of, it's all the associations that come with it. So let's have a look at the word teamwork. If I say teamwork, what comes to your mind? Here's how I think about teamwork. When I think about teamwork, I think about the different types of teams. And here is a basketball team. I think a basketball team is very much like firefighters in that each person on the team, they're all working at the same time and they're all doing more or less the same thing. The players in the basketball team and firefighters are all more or less doing the same things at the same time, trying to achieve a common objective. And I guess that's the important thing about teamwork, is you're trying to achieve a common objective. But in this particular type of team, they're all working all at the same time doing the same thing. Consider how that's different to a softball team. In a softball team, I think a softball team is a team that is more like an orchestra, that there are different people all working at the same time, but they're all doing different things. Or there are clusters of people doing different things. So on a softball team, you've got the pitcher and you've got the catcher and you've got first base, second base, third base, and infield and the outfield, and you've got all the various positions, and they're all working together at the same time, but they're all doing more or less different things to each other. The pitcher is not doing the same thing as the first baseman, for example. Same in an orchestra. They're all playing together, but the first violin is doing something very different to the trombone player, which is very different to the percussionist, which is very different to the piano player. So they're all working at the same time, but they're all doing different things to create, again, a common objective. All of their work in synergy to create a common objective. Now, I want to think of a swimming team, and specifically let's think of a 4x100 metre medley relay race. And I'm going to compare that to a movie. In the 4x100 medley relay, each person in the team is working individually. They're not swimming all at the same time. They're not working all at the same time. They're working at different times in a relay race, one after the other after the other. And if it's a medley relay, they're doing different strokes. One's doing a butterfly, one's doing a backstroke, one's doing a breaststroke, the other one's doing freestyle. So they're all using their individual talents. So the person that's doing butterfly might be a lousy freestyler. Or is that a freestylist? Whatever. The person doing butterfly might be a specialist in doing the butterfly stroke, and they may not be able to do breaststroke or freestyle. Each person is doing their personal best, in this case one after the other, to achieve a common result. But they're not working together. Same happens in the movie. In the movie, so these are very different sorts of teams. In the movie, you've got a team different to the firefighters and the orchestra. When you've got a movie, I'm showing the editor. Now, the editor works more or less alone. The editor might work with the director and later on may work with the producer. But the editor doesn't work with the actors, doesn't work with the composer, doesn't work with the person that does the special effects or the Foley. Each of these people are working independently. The person that writes the screenplay will be working separately to the director, to the actors, to the editor, to the composer. In a movie, it's a bit like the swimming team where each person is doing their own personal expertise, independent and separate to everybody else, but it all comes together for a common goal. So that's how I think of teams, which may or may not be the way you think about teams. But see, I have associations with all of these different types of teams. This is a map of the London Underground, and this is sort of how those associations work. So if you think about dogs or teams or any of the other things we've talked about, or any concept you have in your mind, it's a bit like this map where you've got all these different concepts and they're all connected. Think about a dog. One of the connections you've got with a dog is it's a mammal. And if you think about mammals, well, then you can start thinking about the other mammals, cats and goats and bears and aardvarks and all sorts of things. So that's an association, but you can also think of dog as security. And if you think about security, you can think about security guards and guns and gates and safes, and they're all associations with security. But you can also think of a dog as a seeing eye dog, which is an assistant or a helper to a less than abled person. And again, if you think about what ways can we help the less than abled, then you can think of special parking areas and wheelchairs and canes and ultrasonic sight enhancing devices and all sorts of things. So all of these thoughts in your mind are like this railway map. Each thought or each concept is a station, a little dot on the map, and they're all connected. And they're all connected in intriguing but associated ways. And those associations may make sense for you that may not make sense for me. My story about the dogs protecting my son is very, very meaningful for me. It's a very meaningful event, but is completely meaningless to you, short of you having some sort of empathy for my story. But up until a couple of minutes ago, it wasn't part of your history at all. So it wasn't part of your network. Now, if you look at this drawing, what does it remind you of? What it reminds you of is the physical neurons in your brain. So at the beginning of this little section, I talked about how the neurons grow and connect together in a network physically in your mind, and that's learning. And what you're learning are concepts and ideas, memories and thoughts and ideas and values and decisions. That is a mental network, and that physical network and the mental network are the same network. One is physical, one is conceptual, but the conceptual network comes from the physical. As you learn and you create this physical network in your brain, so too is what you've learnt, and so too is the thoughts and associations in your mind. They're all just connections. Connections that become very, very, very important to us. So whilst we're looking at associations, have a look at this list of words. And some of these words are quite nice words: integrity and love, respect, teamwork. They're great words. For most people, they can produce great positive associations. Though, for some people, the word love may actually have some negative connotations to it. Religion, for some people I know the word religion is a beautiful word, and I know for some people they think that religion is the cause of all the world's evils. So religion can have different associations. Now, there's a couple of other words there, like masturbate and prostitute and slut and nigger, that can cause some real angst in people. I know, it's interesting, so I'm an Australian, and the word nigger in Australia really doesn't have much charge to it. It's not a word that we tend to use. It really doesn't have a lot of meaning or charge to it. But I know from what I've seen of American TV that specific word is such a negatively powerful word that people won't even say it. They won't even say the word. It's like a scene from Harry Potter where he who must not be named, and the word, the N word, the word that shall not be uttered. Why? Why do we fear this word? I understand why it makes people angry. I understand absolutely the negative connotation to it. But why do we fear it? Why do we give it power? See, we give it power. By being afraid to use it, we are giving it power. Now, I know some people are going to completely disagree with me, and to be quite honest, I did have to think about whether I should use that word at all. I hope to have an American audience for this video, and I hope to teach this high-performance thinking in America. And I know that for some people, that it could actually be risky for me just to even say the word. But the same thing could be said of the word slut. I know people that absolutely detest that word, and yet, and from what I see on Facebook and modern day pop culture, a lot of girls are reclaiming the word slut as a word of empowerment, not as a negative word. And again, it'll depend on what generation you're from and what culture you're born in. And this is my point. is that these words are just words. Once upon a time, I would have said they're marks on a piece of paper. They're not even marks on a piece of paper. They're dots on the screen that will disappear as soon as I press the next button. And those are just a pattern of coloured dots amongst a pattern of other coloured dots. And for some people, those words can have so much power, both positive and negative, that it could change the course of their life and could change the course of history. Which brings us back to our opening quote. Men are not disturbed by things. It's not the words, but it's by the view which they take of them. It's the associations that you have in your mind. The things that distress you, the things that make you angry, the things that make you cry. It's not the things. It's the association. High performance thinking allows you to discover your unconscious and conscious associations. And so the key skill here is so that you can improve your communication and decision making abilities. You can reduce conflict and confusion in your relationships and in both personally and professionally, both your personal and professional lives. What concerns you is not the external event. It's what that external event represents to you inside your mind, the associations, which is something you can learn to change. The action exercises for this section is to think of a relationship or situation that's important to you and list 5 or 10 words that represent that relationship. So what we're doing here is exploring the associations. So for example, if I select the relationship with my stepson Jacob, I might think of words such as father, son, love, protect, respect, fun, nurture, teach, play, and explore. Now, each of those words individually has a meaning, but they all have associations with them. So step 2 is for each of the words in step 1, so each of the words you've just listed, write down 3 more words that come to your mind. So, for example, for the word father, what comes to my mind is the word strong, hug, and love. For the word love, I wrote smile, heart, and hug. And you can see how this network of associated thoughts can start to permeate out and expand. So when I say I love my stepson, then that means I will smile at him and I will hug him and that I will have a heart feeling for him. There are certain things that I will feel. They're the associations that love have for me. Step 3, if you picked a relationship, ask the other person, or if you didn't pick a relationship, ask a peer or somebody at work or somebody else to repeat the same steps. So if you're in a relationship and you've written down 5 or 10 words that relationship means to you and the associated words, get the other person or another person to do the same thing. And then compare, step 4 is compare the 2 lists. Reflect on the similarities and differences between the 2 lists. So if you and your partner think about your relationship, what 10 words describe the relationship, and then what words you associate those words with, it's really easy to say that you love someone. It's much more interesting to think about, well, what does that mean? What does love mean to me? How do I express that, and how do I need to see it expressed? They're the associations that you need to explore. I think you'll find that would be very interesting. The next video looks at the biological process that controls sweat and digestion that could also be limiting your income, and why willpower doesn't work.